Conservative activist Charlie Kirk gunned down.
They just found the perpetrator. They'll get to the bottom of this.
If you read this, you are gay.
LMAO.
Just flew back to America, and boy, my right to bear arms is tired. America is a very unique place. You don't realize it until you leave. I was just in Asia for 3 weeks, and in a lot of places in Asia, they don't tip at all. It's actually kind of cool. It's another thing you don't have to think about. But like here you tip, it's a thing. And I feel like we don't tip always because we want to give somebody more. It's just because we will feel like they'll hate us if we don't. You know what I mean? And we tip because we know somebody's not paying them enough. So we're kind of picking up the slack. You know? And I'll be honest, in some neighborhoods I tip so that I don't get shot. I call those hollow tips. But that's a unique thing about America, America is a gun culture. You don't find this in most places in the world. In fact, a lot of places in the world, they just don't have guns. They just don't have, you talk about guns and shooting, they're like, oh, you're American. That's like what comes up. I call it the American tax, you know what I mean? Like, we have freedom of speech, we make all the cool music, but you can get shot at any time, so it's kind of like, okay, so... And it's balanced, about the yin and the yang, which is their thing, not ours. But we took it. We like taking stuff, too. And so I just want to make this very clear, okay? I don't celebrate when someone dies. I don't think that's the way forward. I don't think that's the human thing to do. I do not celebrate the death of another human being. Yes. I simply make jokes, and there's a difference, okay? Jokes are not a celebration of death. They are a celebration of life while we have it. Okay? And if for a moment you think that I'm selective about this, please check my track record. Okay? Sometimes people accuse me like, oh, you only make jokes when somebody on the right dies. It's like, no. Biden, each time he died, I made a joke. Every single time, I made a joke. Never skipped a beat. And you might not remember that, and neither does he. Okay? Okay? When the Pope died, I was at Mass making jokes. I was just like, please forgive me for these, okay? When my own grandfather died, I was like, where's the will? I'm not a good person. Am I going to heaven? Probably not. But I am enjoying my life, and I know in my heart of hearts, I do not celebrate death. I just, I do think that it's important to talk about and digest and look at why things happen so we can understand and make this world a better place. And I think that comedy is a good vehicle for that. And I honestly don't think I should even have to explain this as a comedian. Yeah. And yet I do all the time. I do all the time. Okay, so... all that said, so Charlie Kirk got assassinated, and I'm not going to make any cheap shots. I see him as a human being. I didn't agree with a lot of things he said, and I honestly was only peripherally aware of him like in the last couple years, and he became a very popular person, and I was actually scheduled to debate Charlie Kirk. A lot of people don't know this, yeah. Well, he didn't know it either. But I got accepted into a community college, and that's where he would go. Okay. And again, no disrespect. I actually really value that this guy went to college campuses and talked to kids. I found out about this when I was in Korea. Like, here's the thing about Asia or Australia, if you've ever been. They're like 7, 8, 9 hours behind America, but in tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's just a very weird place to be. Like here in America, you're actually 8 hours ahead of Asia, but yesterday. So you're actually not ahead. You're actually in the Stone Ages. But I woke up at 8 a.m. in North Korea, actually. I was in North Korea. I'm just kidding. Wouldn't that be a plot twist? I was in South Korea. It was 8 a.m. and my opener, Chai, he yelled from the other room. He's like, Charlie Kirk was shot. And I was like, shut up, dude. Too early for jokes, And And then he sent me a photo, and I was like, wow, you AI'd a montage of Twitter headlines, you know? And then it hit me. I was like, this actually did happen. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. This is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Like, I know this guy. I've seen this guy. And I started looking into the story, and here's the thing, like, you start to understand why the rest of the world sees us as the land of shootings, because they wake up and there's already a billion memes made about what happened. You know, when you hear about someone dying, most people do not naturally have the instinct to make a joke. Even myself, as a joke maker, my first instinct's not to make a joke. That comes like hours later. But I woke up and I saw this after, America had already processed it for like 8 hours. So I was already seeing all the jokes, like, wow, these people move fast. So you can understand, I was dropped into this. And it was a lot to process. I watched the video. There's a video of him getting shot, and nobody should ever have to see something like this. No, we as people should not be seeing this level of violence on screen. I can't even believe that I watched it 20 times. It was too much. It was too much for any person, and the fact that we subject ourselves to this is crazy. But if you don't know the backstory, Charlie Kirk is a political commentator. He associates a lot with Republicans and conservative ideology, and he would often go to campuses to speak to students, which, again, I find very noble. I think that's actually a very important thing to do, to stimulate dialogue at college campuses. However, I will say schools are not the safest place to be in America. I don't know how much you know about American schools, but if you're looking for a place to not get shot, I wouldn't go to the school. You know what I'm saying? Like, you rarely hear, like, there was a shooting today at Trader Joe's. Like, you rarely, like, it's like almost always at a school and like sometimes at a Walmart. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how it is, and you got to know the rules, okay? So he was at a school. What he does is he engages in dialogue with the kids. He has them ask questions, and they had been talking for some time, and then the question of shootings came up. And I think they talked about a couple other things. I think they talked about like how many shooters were trans. I guess they were running out of topics. Somebody asked how many shooters are trans, and I think he answered that. And then somebody asked how many shootings have there been in America? Some kind of general question, like how many shootings have there been? And he said counting or not counting gang violence. And then someone shot him. First of all, like, just like irony, like his last words were violence. Like that, like the symbolism here is great. Like this is the thing about this whole thing. Irony was working overtime on this one. He was wearing a shirt that said freedom. His last words were violence. They were talking about school shootings while at a school during a shooting. Like, this was written on South Park or something. I swear, it was insane. Like levels of irony we've never seen before. And so his last words were gang violence, which I don't think anybody ever has uttered those words as their last words before. Usually it's like somebody shouts like a specific gang name, like Norte, bang bang, or Southside Crip, bang bang, but like nobody's ever been like gang violence, and that's... And something to unpack more, this has been a point that Charlie Kirk has liked to make a lot, and a lot of other conservative people, when discussing shootings, is, are we counting gang violence or not? Which I think is a valid question, because some sources that count mass shootings do count gang violence and some don't, and obviously gang violence inflates the numbers a lot. However, there's a subtle implication, like there's still not a ton of regular shootings, and that's a problem. Also, it's like, can we care about the gangsters too? You know what I mean? Like, Crips lives matter, Whatever, guys. You guys don't really have gangs in Hawaii. I don't know, but you're like, no, we have that too. Well, you guys have everything in very small doses. So he shouts gang violence, and then someone shoots him. And instantly, like literally as soon as Charlie Kirk got shot, the whole world tried to politicize it. That's America's thing. America loves to politicize everything. We politicize jeans commercials. You know what I mean? Like, was she selling blue jeans or white jeans? Like, we politicize Cracker Barrel logos. You know what I mean? Like, anything. You give it to us, we'll be like, is that woke or anti-woke? Is that the far left or the far right? Like, why do we have to politicize everything? And that's the sad part, is that I feel like so many Americans, maybe not in Hawaii, fall into this trap that as soon as Charlie Kirk was shot, so many people on the right were just like, well, clearly it was a leftist, right? Clearly it was a liberal. It's like, well, first of all, you should know they don't have great aim, okay? Like, you should know this by now. Liberals are very not often at the shooting range working on their marksmanship, or their marks they ship, sorry. Thank you. That joke did not work in Asia for some reason. I don't know. I was waiting for it to work so much. So thank you guys. So nice to be home. Please don't shoot. I'm also really just thankful that comedy's indoors, to be honest. Don't get scared. We're good. We're fine. Everybody relax. But yeah, everybody politicized it, and then, you know, just as well, you had people on the left like, yeah, got him. That's what he deserved for saying all those things he said. And it's like, I don't know. I just feel like that's equally falling into the same trap. Like, why do we have to politicize everything? Because the politicizing, when it comes to left and right, is ultimately a gang mentality. Because what is the biggest gangs in America other than Republican versus Democrat? Right? So what I'm saying is the shooting technically did count as gang violence. It's if you made it that way. I did not. That was not my choice. Now a lot of people are saying like, oh, we're gonna go into a civil war. Is America gonna go into a civil war? Like, okay, first of all, we're not civil enough for that. Okay, like we can't even nail the civil part. Okay, maybe we'll get to war eventually. But no, I don't think this is a civil war. And I mean, like, Charlie Kirk was beloved, but he was also hated by so many people that I don't think it's enough unanimity to, like, actually, like, we're not the United States. We're states. You know what I mean? Like, be honest about what we are. I don't think we can even agree on who we want to fight over, you know? Also, if we had a civil war in today's world, the main fighting class would have to be Gen Z. I just don't see that happening. To be like, bang, bang, you're dead ass, no cap. You know, like. Thanks, guys. I will say, though, it is kind of nice to see Republicans finally caring about a school shooting. I will say that. And, you know, people ask me, like, well, how did you feel about Charlie Kirk? You heard all the things he said. It's like, Charlie Kirk was younger than me. He was to me, he could have been my younger brother, you know? He was a lot younger than me and a lot more successful, so of course I hated him. But it doesn't mean, and you know, like, you should already know that I'm against violence. I don't know if you watched my other material, but, like, people have outrage when I, like, make jokes about a shooting. Like, have you not seen my genocide material? I saw this news in Korea, and it was already 9/11. Okay? Yeah. For you guys, this happened on 9/10. Okay? But for me, it was 9/11. Okay? And I know that you don't relate because for you it was 9/10, but, you know, on 9/10 it's 9/11 somewhere, you know? So the up thing is, too, I knew this was an important event that had to be talked about, so I instantly put together a set, and I did it that night on 9/11 in Tokyo. And we recorded it, and I posted it on this app. And it was taken down within 24 hours. It was taken down within 16 hours for bullying, which is a bit ironic considering this particular story. But the thing is, I know the community guidelines. I read them before bed every night. And unlike America, my takes are very civil. You know what I'm saying? My takes are very civil, unlike America. My whole thing was just like, hey, like, let's look at this from a bigger perspective, and let's not preach violence. And meanwhile, I don't know if you've been on the internet, there's some wild takes out there. And I'm talking both from left and right, just saying really violent shit. And it's like, you're taking my video down? Like, preaching togetherness? Like, dude, people are saying really, really insensitive jokes. And imagine, like, how many Halloween costumes there's going to be this year. It's going to be a lot. I'm just saying, I'm not the bad guy. I think it's very important to see every human as a human. Now, I think it's also fair to evaluate what somebody has said in their life. Like, it's fine if you want to honor somebody and only look at the good things they've done on the day of their funeral. That's totally your right, and you should enjoy the person you love that way. But we should also be honest about what somebody said. Otherwise, we're never going to learn anything from this. And the truth is that Charlie Kirk did say a lot of inflammatory things about a lot of different people. If you looked at some of the harshest things he said, it was about Islam. He said some things about black people. I'm not a black person, so I can't really speak on how a black person might feel about what Charlie Kirk said. But I can say, as somebody, from a mostly Muslim family, like him saying like Islam is like the seed of evil, basically saying that Islam is ruining America, it needs to be stopped. And I think occasionally he said, there's a few good Muslims, like, oh, thanks. Yes, am I one of the good ones? Did I make the cut? You see that. I mean, if you look at some of his tweets, some of the things he said about Islam, the first thing you would think is like, oh, a Muslim probably did this, okay? But we didn't hear Allahu Akbar at the site, okay? Not saying that you would have, but you know what I mean. It's a thing. You might just hear that, Also, long range marksmanship, not really. You know what I mean? Like we're not really our specialty. We're more of a like throw a bomb, see what happens kind of thing. That's why they say Allahu Akbar. They're like, whoa, my God, it made it. It's like it's you have to understand. I truly believe in freedom of speech. I respect that Charlie Kirk believed in freedom of speech and was literally willing to die for it. I think, honestly, we learned that, like, freedom of speech only goes so far. You know what I mean? There's not only does the government only allow us so much freedom of speech, but you only have so much freedom to say things before it catches up to you. This is a truth, and this is something that we need to be real with and acknowledge, because we live in a country that has the Second Amendment. And if we are going to continue living in a country that has the Second Amendment, and I'm not arguing that we do take it away or don't take it away. I actually have a joke about this, let's say in a minute. But I'm just saying, as long as we have the Second Amendment, you do have to realize we have the First Amendment. We put it first for a reason, but the Second Amendment's also second for a reason, because sometimes the second catches up to the first. You know what I'm saying? And so you need to be aware of this and sometimes plead the fifth and shut the f*** up. That's just my philosophy. I'm just trying to help. I'm not against guns. I think the notion of a gun is where we went wrong. As soon as we came up with the concept of having a killing machine that we could use for other people, I think that was our first wrong. But as long as we have guns, I think everybody should have them or nobody should have them. I don't think we should be picking and choosing who gets the guns easily and who doesn't. Well, maybe with some specific restrictions, I guess. But here's how I feel about gun control, because every time there's a massive act of gun violence, our country divides right down the middle, right? Half the country says we need to get rid of all the guns. Let's just start slapping each other. Can we have slap battles? Slap, 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 slap. Gotcha. Slap, 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 slap. And then the other half of the country is like, we need more guns. And our guns should have little guns and they can battle it out, elimination round, and then we take the winner. Like, what the is this? This is such a different theory. And the truth is, we'll never know which one of these theories actually works until we try both, okay? That's how science works. You got to have a control, got to have a variable, and unfortunately, we have not tried both of either. But I think we can, because that's the beautiful thing about the United States is we're not united, but we are states. You know what I'm saying? We got a bunch of different states to experiment with, I don't know if you know this, but we got 50 states. Yeah, 51 if you count Israel. We got a lot of states in the United States. It's a lot of room to experiment with, okay? What I'm saying is that I think we should pick a state where we try the no guns thing, and I should pick a state where we try the all guns thing. Now, I'm not the governor of Hawaii, okay? I would think this would be a great state to try no guns, just because if you want to kill someone in Hawaii, like, you really need therapy. You know what I mean? Like, Go to the beach, sip on a coconut, you'll be fine. You know what I mean? Okay. But you can decide that on your own. I'm just saying this would probably be an easier place to try that. But we got to try the place where we do more guns. I volunteer Alaska. Alaska already has the highest rate of gun violence because it's mostly bears. You know, it's just bears shooting at bears. It's bear on bear violence. Alaska has a bunch of problems already anyways. Alaska has the highest rate of non-consensual sex. Disgusting, yeah. You would think it would be the opposite because the state's name, Alaska. But it's not. And so I'm just saying, send more guns to Alaska, arm the bears, okay? Give the bears the right to bear arms, okay? And just see what happens. We're at the point now, we have so many shootings that we have shooters of every different kind of identity. This was the topic that came up right before Charlie Kirk died, was how many trans shooters have there been in America? That's why are we even asking that question? But the fact that trans people are such a small demographic of the United States and that we already have trans shooters, that actually says a lot. It's very progressive, actually. I support trans shooter rights, actually. I know my take on this is very unpopular because I'm not anti-gun and I'm pro-trans. You very rarely have those two things together. Yeah. You know, I mean, some would do so. That means it makes you pro-gun. I mean, I guess for the sake of the argument, I'm pro-gun and pro-trans, and only Arizona agrees with that. So, so much so, I bought a transgender gun. Yeah. It's a sawed-off shotgun, but okay. I ran that joke by my trans friend, okay? They loved it, okay? So, but they're also a comedian, so maybe not the best barometer. And then you have a lot of people who had this reaction, which I also don't like, people saying like, oh, well, I didn't like the guy, but now I'm scared. It's like, dude, you should have been scared before all this shit. You know, like there's been school shootings this whole time. They're all important. They all need to be stopped. And rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. But dude, just because it was an adult this time, like that just shows you America doesn't give a fuck about kids, man. And it also bothers me that after this happens, all politicians, both left and right, are suddenly having the same soundbite that there is no place for political violence in this country. It's like, there's no place for any violence. Bro, schools are getting shot up. You're voting to send money to bomb kids overseas. Stop doing that too. Stop doing that too. If you're a politician and you're worried that violence is coming to your doorstep, maybe stop exporting it all over the world with your policies, man. You know what I mean? And if you don't get why what goes around comes around, you know, then maybe get educated, okay? Just like do some more research. Don't go to school. But do the research. Do the research. Okay. Now on to solving this crime, okay? I am a private detective. So there obviously were a lot of very suspicious things about this whole thing. The shot was made at a long range, which there's been a lot of debate about. Like the first kind of talking point was like, to do a long range like that, it has to be a professional job. But then you had hunters coming out of the woodwork be like, no, I do that all the time. I don't know who to believe at this point, to be honest, but it could be either. What's crazy to me is a couple things. First of all, right after they shot Charlie, they immediately zoned in on an old guy who became the fall guy right away, the patsy, as they say, and who apparently was like, yeah, I did it. And then you look over, it's like this old guy, like, is that the guy? And he's like, it was me. And then after 3 hours of like being focused on him, they're like, yeah, it's actually not that guy at all. I don't know why we were talking to that guy, leaving enough time for the shooter to get away. My first thought was the shooter shot at the exact same time that the subject of shootings came up, which was like, was the person who asked the question in on it? Because that felt very coordinated. But then I saw a reel posted by the guy. He's like, yeah, I'm the guy who was asking the questions. It was crazy. Like, I feel bad for the guy. He saw that like right in front of him. So as a detective, he checks out. I don't think I don't think he was in on it. I think he was just a regular student who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. But like the irony, did the shooter know? Did the shooter wait till that came up just to make this extra ironic? Because if they did, they heard it from 200 yards away, which I guess give credit to the sound system there. It must have been a pretty good sound system. Or could have just been total coincidence, which is even more bonkers. Okay? But everybody immediately clocked in that this had to be done with some kind of experience, some kind of plan. And every race of people was standing behind their laptop being like, please don't let it be ours. Please don't let it be ours. I know Charlie Kirk said some really vicious thing about Muslims, but please don't make this a halal shooter, okay? And then we're all worried. We're all behind the screen like, please don't let it be us. And then everybody can relax. It was a white guy. We're like, oh my God. Oh my God. Thank you so much. Oh my God. And his name is Tyler. So like, that's a white name. That's a white name, dude. Like as soon as they're like, it's Tyler, I was like, all right, we're good. I didn't need to see him. I was like, it's Tyler. We're good. And I get it. A black person can be Tyler too, but it's not Tyler the creator. It's Tyler the destroyer in this case. But as soon as we confirm the race, then the next question is, what is his political party? Right? And it suddenly became like a gender reveal anticipation. Like, ooh, what's going to come out? What's going to come out? Is it going to be red? Is it going to be a red cloud or a blue cloud? They're like, oh. That's how it is in America, right? We get tense over the political party reveal of the most recent shooter. And like everybody on the right's like, it's going to be a leftist. It's going to be a leftist. It's going to be a blue-haired lesbian. And on the left, they're like, please, just make it a regular gun owner. Please, just make it a normal conservative gun owner, please. And then it turns out it's just Tyler. He's actually somewhat politically ambiguous. I've heard people try to spin it both ways, but he's somewhat politically ambiguous, and I think he did this on purpose so that we don't know how to fight, Because his family is Republican, but he's not necessarily a registered Republican. He had some conservative viewpoints, but he also had some anti-fascist, some more leftist viewpoints as well. He dressed in all black, so he's a goth. He gets that category. His shirt had an American flag, so it's all of our fault, right? He was wearing Chuck Taylors, which is kind of 90s gangster a little bit. A little kind of up to wear Chucks on the way to kill. All right, anyways. Okay, messed up. Everybody's kind of like trying to twist the narrative on Tyler. Some people are saying, well, he went to college and he was radicalized by all these leftist professors. Dude, he did one semester during COVID times, okay? So really just blame this on the lockdowns if you want to scapegoat. He did one semester, then he's like, yeah, I'm out. I'm just going to be a full-time shooter or whatever. I don't know. And then some people were like, oh, he's got to be LGBTQ because, Charlie Kirk was against that, so he's probably that. But it turns out, he came from a Republican family. Okay, so he's probably gay. I'm just kidding. That was too easy. His dad turned him in. That's how you know it was a white family. That's some white shit. Brown kids, we don't even talk to our parents. We're just like, my parents didn't even know my girlfriend's name for like 3 years. But like Tyler and his dad were close enough to where Tyler's dad turned him in. And, this is what you get when you live with your parents, I guess. You know what I mean? It's, if you live with your parents, they're gonna know you did a shooting. I feel bad for the parents. I really do. I really feel horrible for the parents that they have to like know that their kid did that. But at least they got him out the house, Older parents, you know how that is. It's tough to get these millennials and Gen Z out. Here's where it gets weird. The shooter, Tyler, he engraves words onto the casings, okay? Kind of hacked Luigi on that one a little bit. Let's be honest. And also, let's be honest, like as soon as the picture of Tyler came out, most people's first thoughts were like, not as hot as Luigi. You know what I mean? Like not as Luigi, hard shoes to follow for like shootings. Like alleged. It's all alleged. But like yeah, like after that, you're just like, yeah, nobody's as hot as Luigi. But Tyler, he wrote some things on the casings. I think some were like anti-fascist. I think there was one that was related to LGBTQ. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then there was one specifically that said, if you're reading this, you are gay, LMAO. Which this was, and this was, you know, and we know whoever is going to be doing the forensics on this is Utah police. So this was a direct assault on Utah police. Okay? The poor officer who was just like, oh no. This is what we learned about in church. And yeah, I mean, if they didn't already know it was Tyler and they were trying to piece together this crime, and you told me like the bullet casing said, if you are reading this, you are gay, LMAO, I'd be like, it could have been any one of my friends, to be honest. It could be literally, I don't know if it's Brad or Chad or Tad, but they love gay jokes. A kid from Tyler's high school said, yeah, I went to school with Tyler, and I'll just say he was a Reddit guy. I feel bad for all the Reddit boys today. This is a loss for all the Redditors, man. Although I can say, you know, if there's one app claiming most of the shootings, it's probably you. Or 4chan. Yeah, right up there with 4chan. But obviously, even with identifying Tyler, this whole thing is still very suspicious. Because immediately when they identified the suspect, the governor of Utah came out and he's like, we got him. Like, already I'm like, okay, that's very suspicious that he's just so confident that they got him. And I don't know if you've seen some of the footage of the event, but there's a lot of suspicious things going on that day. If you saw behind Charlie Kirk, some of his like bodyguards and people were doing some very strange hand signals right before it happened. Yeah, they were like, either they were like really bad ASL interpreters, or they were potentially signaling that something might happen. The other thing that people were talking about was that the scope on the rifle that the shooter allegedly used that they found in the bushes was placed in a very weird way. It would have been quite miraculous for somebody to make that shot. But some people also said, well, the scope can sometimes get messed up when you drop the rifle. Again, this is not something I would know or don't know. Cannot confirm. I don't quite have the scope for this, let's just say, But the other very weird thing was around the time of the shooting, like shortly after, there was a private jet that took off 12 minutes down the road from this college that illegally disabled its radar while in the sky and then came back and landed back in Provo, the station where it was, a couple hours later. Now, they've revealed the flight log since and said, oh, it just went to Arizona, then came back. But why did you disable the radar at just the right time for somebody to potentially do an airdrop? You know what I'm saying? So I trust the government. There were some other suspicious things. Netanyahu tweeted a little too soon. And Netanyahu tweeted at the exact same time as Trump. I don't know if you saw this. They both tweeted at 3:02 p.m. and they both said praying for Charlie Kirk. But Netanyahu tagged Charlie Kirk for some reason. I don't know if he thought he was going to see it. He said praying for @Charlie Kirk. I don't know. His intern needs to be fired. Shortly after, Netanyahu made a long post about Charlie Kirk, which is just like, wow, we didn't know you felt this way. And then he was on a news program recently also, and they're like, hey, there's a lot of people who think that you might have killed Charlie Kirk. We're not saying you did. like, yeah, you are. Like, did you? And he was like, no, we would never. And that was weird. And then Netanyahu... And then Netanyahu, he went on to basically say, oh, we all know this was probably done by radical Muslims, which is like, never met a Muslim named Tyler, buddy, okay? Oh, it's my boy Tyler from the local masjid. Like, nobody's... out there saying, "Salam, Tyler." So that was super sus. You do have to look into this because, and a lot of this is circulating right now, in his last weeks, Charlie Kirk did confide to one of his best friends that he was afraid that Israel might kill him if he turned on them. Yeah, this has been said on record. Also, there was a few actual live footage interviews with him where he was talking about his frustrations with recently people from Israel turning on him because he was becoming more of a skeptic. Because if you know Charlie Kirk, he was very pro-Israel up until like the last few weeks of his life, when he started to show the very slight seedlings of an awakening, similar to like Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson, who I love, by the way. I don't care what you say. Tucker Carlson's doing God's work right now, okay? He's reaching a demographic of people that y'all motherfuckers were never going to reach with your platforms. I don't care what he said in the past. I'm in love with Tucker Carlson right now. Do not ruin it for me. When he laughs, I come. I love this man. You could potentially see the seedlings of an awakening in Charlie Kirk in these last few weeks as he started to question Mossad's role in the Epstein files. Okay, now I'm not going to say much more on this because I'm also scared. Okay, so let's just say Epstein, if you didn't know, he was a creepy guy who enjoyed getting Mossages, if you know what I mean. He was not good to women. He was a misogynist, if you know what I'm saying. Don't kill me for delivering the Mossad, okay? But Charlie Kirk was demanding the release of the Epstein list, which I don't know if you've been following, but Trump does not want that, okay? He was starting to potentially suggest the role of Mossad with Epstein. He was potentially suggesting that Epstein was intelligence and perhaps working for Mossad. He was questioning whether October 7th was an inside job, as most people who have the facts now can see. And he was at one point expressing his frustration to Megyn Kelly in an interview, saying that people in Israel were now coming after him and that he gets even more criticism than Israelis do because of his former position. And then he confided to his friend that he was afraid that Israel was going to kill him. Okay, that to me is a giant red flag. But would Israel do an assassination? Would they? They're so busy with genocide right now. I don't think they have the time, rest in peace, JFK. I don't think that they would do something like this. But some people are saying they are. Not me. But Charlie Kirk said that he was afraid of Israel. Somebody recently said that Trump even said that he was afraid of Israel. Like he expressed it to somebody because of how strong the AIPAC lobby is in our Congress. He's afraid of Israel. And I'm afraid. Like Charlie Kirk was afraid of Israel. Trump's afraid of Israel. I'm afraid of Israel. The only people not afraid of Israel are Palestinians. Okay? Palestinians are the last frontier of people who are not afraid to stand up to Israel. And so the irony here is that this all somehow does relate to Gaza, because you have what's happening in Gaza, you have the cover-up of the Epstein files, because I don't know if you noticed, but one day before the Charlie Kirk thing happened, we were all on the edge of our seats waiting for the release of the Epstein files. They had just released the creepy-ass birthday book, okay? And we're like, where are the files? Where are the files? Even Charlie was like, where are the files? And then, boom, it's over. And then suddenly we're all about that. And while we were all paying attention to the Charlie Kirk case, the House, I believe the House, or our Congress, voted on a measure to not release the Epstein files. The Republicans voted to not release the Epstein files, all while we were not paying attention. So, I don't know, kind of adds up. I do math. It kind of adds up. These are all just conspiracies. It could have just been Tyler. It's like on one hand you have like, was it Israel and Trump coordinating to cover up the Epstein files and the genocide and everything that's going on in the Israel lobby? Or was it just a white guy named Tyler from Utah who said, you are gay? I don't know. I honestly don't even know anymore. But I will say, I posted a video already with my takes on it, and I pissed off a lot of people. I pissed off people who said, this is so insensitive to be making jokes at this time, these are typically the free speech people too, which is kind of annoying. And then I also pissed off leftists who were like, oh, you're being too moderate, calling Charlie Kirk a human. He was Satan, Nazi. Like, bro, like we can't continue with this divisiveness. The more we preach partisan divisiveness, it's gonna kill us. It's gonna kill us all. It's literally like, imagine you got shot and your insides are spilling out and you, for the first time, see your intestines. You're like, oh, those are gross. So then you cut them out because they're gross, only to realize you die without your intestines. Just because something seems foreign and something seems ugly to us, or something seems different, or we don't understand it, does not mean that it's not essentially vital to our existence. So what I'm saying is, don't try to play God and don't try to be a surgeon. You're not a surgeon. You're not a surgeon. And Charlie Kirk, even though I disagreed with so many things he said, like I said, I respect the craft that he went to schools and he engaged in dialogue with people who disagree with him. I respect that he believed in freedom of speech and he was willing to die for it. And the thing is, I think he manifested the whole thing because he wanted to be a martyr. You could hear in his tone that he wanted to be a martyr for something. He wore a shirt that said freedom on his last days. And yes, he was very pro-Israel for a lot of his life, but let's be honest, if he got killed by Israel, he died like a Palestinian. And I will say, a little bit of irony, if Israel did do this, I'm not saying they did, but if they did do this, they technically did 2 9/11s. Okay. It was 9/10 for you, but it was 9/11 somewhere. And no, I'm not saying they did that. Of course, if Israel wanted to do that, they would have just bombed the whole school. So don't kill the messenger. I know this stuff's all dark, and I know we're all processing in our own ways, but while we're all alive, let's at least celebrate life. So enjoy the jokes before they get taken down again. All right. So thank you so much for coming out. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Oh, no. Let's keep it nice and civil. That's not a great thing, though, right? They would not have liked this next joke. Did you guys hear about the Israeli pedophile that the United States let off? Yeah. I know, you're like, which one? The head of Israeli cyber defense, or as I call it, Iron Chrome, got busted in Vegas for soliciting a minor online. Literally the one thing you can't do in Vegas. In Vegas, you can gamble your life savings, you can drink in public, you can smoke weed with your hooker, you can gun down a famous rapper, you can have a random Asian guy dangling from your car window. You've seen The Hangover, but you can steal a tiger from Mike Tyson, etc., etc. But just stay away from the kids. Okay, you can literally bet on any number as long as it's higher than 18, is what I'm saying. It's like inverse blackjack. The police engaged in a sting operation and no music was made. That joke would have killed in the 80s. And in this operation, an undercover officer posed as a 15-year-old girl, which, let's face it, kind of a sweet gig, okay? And good for a cop, too, right? Same level of emotional intelligence. Yeah, totally. In the sting operation, 8 men were busted, including a pastor, shocking, and an Israeli official named Tom Alexandrovich, aka Peeping Tom, who is the head of cybersecurity for Israel. Yeah. So clearly we found a security flaw. Iran, take notes. You want to get in? Just pose as a 15-year-old girl. The irony, too, is that Alexandrovich was in Vegas for a conference about hacking. And ironically, he got hacked. So clearly, not very good at his job. He needs to go back to school. Oh, wait, actually, no. No. He's a high-ranking officer. He had meetings later that week with the NSA, probably to spy on us more. And then he got spied on by the highest level possible, Vegas PD. He even had meetings scheduled later that week with the FBI. But he met him earlier, apparently. So they caught him, they confronted him, and he was like, oh, I didn't know her age. And it said 15 on her profile. He's like, yeah, I can't read numbers. They're like, why are you in Vegas, buddy? You know? The profile clearly said 15, and he claims he thought it was 18. It's very unlike an Israeli to inflate the numbers. Usually they play them down. But is that not ironic? The head of Israeli cyber defense turns out to be a cyber predator? Actually not shocking at all. When you're familiar with how Israelis do self-defense, kind of predatorial, you know what I mean? In fact, we're lucky he didn't molest the whole hospital because he said Hamas was underneath it. So they busted him. He basically said, well, this has been nice, but I gotta get my flight back to Israel. And the local police were like, we don't know where that is. You're being detained. And then he's like, actually, I'm El Salvadorian. They're like, get out of our country. Just kidding. The police were like, where's El Salvador? And then he's like, I'm basically Mexican. They're like, get out of the country. So Alexandrovich was basically like, I need to make a phone call. Somebody let the officers know. They're like, yeah, you can let this guy go. So the question is, like, who did he call? Ghislaine Maxwell? Better Call Saul? You know what I mean? Like, he got off very quickly. That's not a great way to say it, but they let him out. Which is fucked up, because people are now saying, like, well, 7 other people got busted in that operation. Why do you just care about the Israeli? Because he's the only one who got away. The pastor's not going back to work on Tuesday. The messed up part is that national media is hardly even covering this story. Literally only local Vegas media, because, you know, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Another messed up thing is, like, this is not the first time this has happened. Many times, law enforcement has busted a person for pedophilia, and then someone from higher up says, you gotta let this person go back to Israel. So my thing is, if you're law enforcement or FBI, and you're complicit in this, and somebody tells you, you gotta let this pedophile go, and you just do it without resigning and sharing this story with the world, you never cared about the kids in the first place. You literally either give up the badge and get on Joe Rogan tomorrow, or you are literally part of the whole scheme. You know? So at that point, you're basically Ghislaine Maxwell with a body cam. And she probably did wear a body cam, actually. So you're just Ghislaine Maxwell. And this whole time, we saw what's happening in Gaza, and we thought that Israelis don't care about kids. But apparently, some love them. Like a bit too much, actually. A bit too much. Not your kids, our kids. America, America, America. America first. That's the oath of every Israeli pedophile. America first. So you're telling me that if a pedophile works for Israel, they have a get out of jail free card in America? Well, I guess we know what happened with Epstein. Sorry if that made you most sad. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. Are you guys okay? Is everything good? Is everything okay? What do you mean, sure? It's great? Awesome. Okay. Well, we're Palestine. Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Well, no, I'm keep talking. Well, let me breathe. Okay. I have a couple of very unhappy-looking people in here. At 3:30 p.m. Okay. Yeah, it's almost sunset, guys. Perk up. On a Sunday, was that your excuse? What is that, the culture here? We just drink till we die on fucking Saturdays? Yeah! Yeah, pretty much it! Welcome to Australia, mate! I love how your guys' city names, you don't even like fully enunciate them. Because you have like Melbourne, but you're like Melbourne. You have Brisbane, you're like Brisbane. And you have Sydney, you're like Sydney. I'm going to Perth on Thursday, and I'm wondering if you guys just go call it. Yeah, kinda. The other thing that's it's interesting about Australia is that the time difference from me to you, because I'm in California, so we're 7 hours ahead, but yesterday. That's why like there's this weird disconnect, because you guys are 7 hours behind me mentally, but already in tomorrow. That's why like I tell a joke and I'm like, they don't get it, but it's like you already heard it yesterday. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. So yes, anyways, great time to y'all, hey, guys, my friends. If I can hear you, they can hear you even more, right? And so I think she was requesting that you guys. Oh no. Let's keep it nice and civil at 3:30. This is for the late show. But yeah, you guys are talking a bit much, so we're politely checking in. And if you need to guys have a conversation, feel free to go outside. Just want to make sure everything's okay. Everything good? Amazing. Yes. Amazing. Yes. Fantastic. Yes, probably what. Yeah, that's not a great thing though, right? What? What's that? It's not a great thing. No, it's not. Thank you. Yikes. That felt like my mom. Like, go on with your show thingy, whatever you call it. Man, you know, I always go to other countries and I'm like, dude, like I'm a really nice guy, I'm a really cool guy. Like, why do they hate Americans so much? And then I see another American. All right, now let's take it 7 hours back. Let's get back till tomorrow, Sunday. Because it's still Saturday back where I'm from. They don't even know what's about to happen today. So, if you've been following me for more than 2 years, which I know most of you haven't, but maybe one or two of you have, you know that I literally talk about everything. I can make hexagons funny, okay? But right now, obviously, I'm fixated on one subject because I want this madness to end now. And so, that's where I am mentally. I have been talking about this situation for many years, and people do ask me, because I've been talking about it for a very long time, and people ask me, they're like, have you ever lost anything for talking about it? And the answer is, I don't know. Because I never got those things anyways. And I think that it's really time to adjust this narrative that we say, if you speak up for Palestine, you'll be fired, you'll be suppressed, you'll lose your job, you'll lose your friends, you'll lose your family. These things are true. This has happened to people, but throw that narrative out the door and say, actually, if you speak up and do the right thing, good things will come for you, regardless of what you lose in the process. Okay? Because if you lose something, it didn't really matter that much in the first place, okay? For instance, I just got banned from a high school. Let me explain. I know some of you are like, more context, please. I got banned from high school. All right. I got banned from high school. They never went to high school.
I'm Jewish.
Oh, okay, that's fine. There's nothing. But we were never talking about you. You know what I mean? How hard is it to be like, I'm not a pedophile. I don't support pedophiles. Therefore, this is not about me. Okay. Okay. So, anyways, they would not have liked this next joke. like that whole bit that we did about the pedophiles, like that was like the mild one. And yeah, it's been an interesting show. We only lost 2 crowd members that I know of. What's that? Shout out to them. I thought you said send it to them, like send them the rest of the show. Be like, hey guys, I noticed you left a little early and you didn't see the rest of my set. Have you guys been to high school? I like how you guys took their seats so fast though. That was like, yeah, like I blinked and you guys were already there. Where are you guys from, by the way? Oh, you're from Yemen? Well, there you go. It's Yemen. Always the first to take action, aren't you? Yemenis, they see injustice. They see an opening. They're like, I'm going to seize that. And she brought her Somali friend, too. That's awesome. Shout out. Shout out. Yemen, Somali. Shout out. I love that. On the way out, she whispered into one of the servers' ears. She's like, I'm actually not Jewish. But it was awkward. It was like very awkward that happened. And then I was like, that's anti-Semitic. Like, here I thought, like I upset somebody because of like a religious association to an ethno-state, obviously. When it turns out she was just a dumb American taxpayer. And then the funny thing was they left, and then 2 Yemeni girls seized their seats immediately. Like, you can't make this up. You can't make this up. Yeah, so I call that story All Is Well on the Red Sea.